answers in the shooting death of his son. His son was former NFL safety Pat Tillman, a charismatic young man who gave up his football career to join the Army Rangers. He was killed in Afghanistan by his fellow Rangers. The official term is fratricide, and the Army ultimately issued a finding of gross negligence. But exactly what happened to Tillman is still not agreed upon by the Tillman family. There was a cover-up, and the story the rest of the world and the Tillman family were told after his death was a lie. Just as military officials made up stories about Private Jessica Lynch to boost morale and create a patriotic narrative, Army officials initially said Pat Tillman was killed in a firefight with insurgents, that he saved his fellow Rangers by sacrificing himself. The media ate up that story, and members of the Bush White House and the military clearly hoped to use Pat Tillman's death to rally support for the war. Cover-up began. Pat Tillman's uniform was burned, evidence destroyed. Even some of Pat Tillman's fellow soldiers were told to lie about what happened to him.
They told me you need to keep your mouth shut about it. I was told your career is on the line.
When somebody tells me something in the Army, you salute me. About face and go get it done.
What they said happened didn't happen, and so you have to set the record straight.
Pat Tillman's mom. So many people in the military and government lied, and their lives would have gone unnoticed if it wasn't for Mrs. Tillman and Mr. Tillman and the other members of the Tillman family who took it upon themselves to find and demand the truth. The record is being set straight in a devastating new documentary called The Tillman Story. It's going to be out on August 20th. I talked about the lies and the cover-ups today with Pat Tillman Sr. for the Big 360 interview. Mr. Tillman, thank you very much for being with us. First of all, I want to start just by apologizing, because after watching this documentary and reviewing the media coverage of your son's death and the aftermath of it, I feel like every member of the media should apologize for the role that the media played in basically supporting the Bush administration and the military's cover-up. I mean, the media, along with everybody else, played into this myth-making that completely was antithetical to not only who your son was, but also to what happened to him.
Well, I won't disagree with that. We tried to get quite a few of the major media organizations involved in it, and we basically spoon-fed this stuff to a lot of people, and we got, we call them fluff pieces. It's the cold, blustery day stuff, and they refused to address the points that we wanted to address, and the primary one being that there was a homicide investigation that was falsified.
And not only falsified, but I mean, for months and months and months, it was left up to your family to investigate this doggedly, and that's what you all did, going through the redacted material and basically learning as close as possible to finding out exactly what happened to your son, and still, even after you wrote a letter to the military basically pointing out all the factual inaccuracies, they launched another investigation and ended up blaming one Lieutenant General, Kensinger, who had retired, perhaps not coincidentally. They removed one of his stars, and they said basically, that's it, investigation over.
That was it. That he was the captain of the ship, and everybody else walked, including the Crystal and as far as I'm concerned, Don Rumsfeld. I mean, I believe this thing went way up high.
I want to show our viewers this P4 memo, which is really a smoking gun in all this. This is a memo that General Stanley McChrystal, who now everybody knows about because he's now been removed from command, but General Stanley McChrystal sent this memo out, I believe, 7 days after your son's death. And it was sent to the White House, it was sent to all the top generals, stateside and around the world, and it basically says that, because of questions of, that this may be a friendly fire death, that the president and others, when talking about the death of your son, should be vague and should not go into details about the circumstances of his death, correct?
That's correct, but you may want to look at that another angle as well. Not only was it notification to these folks, but I believe those folks that he sent the P4 to whom they sent the P4, were already on notice of Pat's death and the circumstances around it. I think that General McChrystal sent that as a CYA letter so that things don't get back to him. I don't believe that was the only involvement he had.
One of the most stunning things when looking back on this is the testimony given by Donald Rumsfeld, given by General Abizaid, given by General Myers. I mean, this is sworn testimony about when they were notified or when they learned that your son was killed by friendly fire. And basically, and we're going to play a clip from the documentary, but, I mean, they all claim complete ignorance.
Let me conclude the hearing by just indicating the facts that General Myers and General Brown knew at the end of April. General Abizaid learned on May 6th. Secretary Rumsfeld learned on May 20th. Yet all of it, sir.
Can I make a point here?
I want to make sure it's precisely accurate. I do not believe I testified that I learned on May 20th. And if that impression's been left, I don't want that left.
Okay.
My testimony is that I just simply do not know when I first learned of the possibility of
Well, I
fratricide.
appreciate that correction.
And sir, if I may, I also wanted to make sure that the 6th is a logical day. It's not the day.
Okay.
It's the best that my staff and I could come to the conclusion.
Well, you were all very busy. There was no question about it.
Sir, one other thing, if I could interrupt to
Yes.
Also correct it. Your statement was that I knew about the friendly fire. I knew that there was an investigation ongoing about
That's right.
the potential for friendly fire.
That goes for me too. That's exactly right. And for me as well.
Okay.
I mean, these guys are tripping over themselves to, you know, have deniability, to basically say, well, look, I don't know, I don't recall, my fax machine was broken.
Yeah, these are very senior people, and that, to me, is an embarrassment. Those are the people that we have running the war, or
Still.
had running the war.
I mean, it's still in some cases.
And, yeah. Oh, I thought it was ridiculous. But even worse was the panel of people that were, I guess it would be called stage right at that same hearing, that spent so much time just kissing Donald Rumsfeld and those generals. You know, we are so happy you're here. We're so glad to see you. And it was disgusting.
You're talking about the politicians.
It was the politicians.
Do you mind if I play something that Richard had said at the memorial service?
Oh, please do.
Okay, I just want to play, this is your son, Richard, Pat's brother, some of what he said at this memorial service.
Yeah, I'm not just gonna sit up here and break down on you, but thanks for coming. Pat's a f***ing champion, and always will be. Just make no mistake, you want me to say this, he's not with God, he's f***ing dead, he's not religious, so thanks for your thoughts, but he's f***ing dead.
What do you make of how your son has been used?
Well, to start with, I thought Richard's speech was the most eloquent of the bunch.
You think they would have liked to have used him?
They certainly tried. They certainly tried. And that is just, I mean, it's shameful stuff.
It is certainly clear that the military did not know who they were dealing with, not only with your son, but also with you and your ex-wife and Pat Tillman's wife and his brothers, because the work you all have done to try to set this right, at least get some form of justice, has been extraordinary, and thank you for being with us.
Well, and thank you for having me on.
Tillman's story is going to be in theaters on August 20th. I recommend you see it. It's really just an extraordinary piece of journalism. Next, Naomi Campbell taking center stage.